can't wait anything for the government. I beg to say that sometimes even the government sometimes don't really understand what the business needs are.
No, the government doesn't understand anything. That's the truth. The government doesn't understand anything.
You know, sometimes even the regulators themselves, let me share this with you. Even the regulators themselves don't know what the global standards are.
The head of the regulation agency, have he ever
Uh-huh.
built a business in that industry?
That's the other questions. These are the questions we need to ask. So don't want to over-regulate a sector, you know, because if you over-regulate it, you build some sort of bureaucracy and roadblocks for businesses to thrive. So I believe,
and that's one of the biggest hindrances for business building in Africa. We are over-regulated. The point I haven't heard anybody articulate is this: why? Why do we allow somebody coming from US or Canada or UK to just fly into any country in Africa, but we don't allow the next door neighbor to fly in? Why? There's free movement everywhere in Africa. I will tell you one thing. South Africa will be flooded. Nigeria will be flooded. Yes.
Exactly.
That is the reality.
Yes, I understand.
Kenya will be flooded. Rwanda will have double the population in one month. See, so these are realities. Unfortunately, we are not bold enough to even acknowledge these things openly. Until we are able to acknowledge these things openly, we cannot begin to solve the problem. All right. Man.
At least eventually.
Yes. Wow. So, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you. And how are you today as well?
I'm good. See, I know we have been having a back and forth, missed appointments and all that. I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you're here. So let's get to it. See, tell my audience who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Paul Layode. I'm a management consultant. I do a lot of consulting where business strategy and corporate development is concerned. And I also run, a lot of people don't know this, but I also run a real estate firm. But our focus is quite different. So that's basically what I do. I help businesses to gain competitive edge. Where their market segment is concerned. So
okay,
that's basically it.
So what kind of businesses do you help? Is there any particular sectors that you focus on?
Yeah. We help those with fast-moving consumer goods.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay. And why are you focusing on those companies in that sector? Is there any reason? Is there any particular reason why you guys focus on that?
Yeah, but you know where there you have a lot of is a sort of red ocean.
Okay.
And competition is a bit intense in that sector. So
yeah, so they need more. They need more consulting. Yeah. Wow.
I don't want to use the phrase "survival of the fittest," but basically that's what it is.
You see,
that's what it is.
Yeah. You see, me, I've always, at least in the last 10, 15 years, I have focused on trying to get people, young Africans, to start businesses and scale businesses and all that, And we have many of them come back and they tell me all the stories why things are difficult, why they can't do it. I mean, hey, we know it's not easy to start a business. We know it's not easy to grow the business, to scale it. Yes, and that's why successful business owners deserve whatever they earn. Okay, that's my view. Okay, I'm not one of those that say you start a business in 10 years you need to divide your your gain to spread to everybody. No, you did the work, because see, business building is difficult, very very difficult. Yeah, and we need to understand it. So you as a consultant, what
Yeah.
have you seen in Africa, in Nigeria? What do you think are the most challenging areas for business
Um,
for
well,
businesses?
you see, the thing about it is the way I view challenge is quite different
Okay.
because we could go on, we could we could state a million reasons why businesses fail.
Mm.
We're basically in Nigeria and other climes or other countries and the rest of the world. But you see, the challenges themselves are something that should spur innovation.
Okay.
Because really, sometimes you tend to ask yourself, why do people invest in Nigeria or Africa?
Okay.
Basically, you know, you see challenge here, you see the regulation, there's a lot of infrastructure, you have all the regulatory requirements to be met, and but you not ask yourself, yes, businesses are failed, but why are people still investing in Nigeria? Why is the
Okay.
Dangote investing? He launched, he just is about building like two of the biggest cement factories in Ogun State. But some businesses are failed, even in that so-called sector. So you
Mm.
ask yourself, why will the Dangote still keep investing in Nigeria despite all the challenges he met before building the new
Yeah.
refinery built? So the challenges are enormous, if you ask me. We have the infrastructure thing, the resource endowment. We can go on and on about government policies. Sometimes, we could say they are not business friendly. But then again, people are still investing in Nigeria or Africa, so to say.
Yeah.
We have a growing middle class. We have we have a medium age of 19 to 20-year-olds. You
Yeah.
know, the market is basically, let me tell you, the market is
Very
there.
young. Yeah.
Whatever you are selling, whether it's food, clothes, whatever you are selling, electronics, whatever you are into, the market is here. The market is in Africa. So
The future
there's no
market is
doubt,
there. Yes.
yes, the
Mm.
market is here. We have a growing middle class as well. So, and going by the recent, I could tell you that, okay, Africa is having we have like 1.2 billion population, which is quoted to grow twice in the
Yeah.
next maybe 2030.
Yeah.
So you see, like a former professor said something. He said if you see a red flag, it's not the time to flight. That's
Okay.
the time to sit down and say, okay, how do we innovate at scale? how do we grow the market despite all the challenges we are facing? Yes, it's true that some companies left Nigeria because of the forex, government policies.
Yeah.
But despite that, you still have people investing enormously in Nigeria. So tell me, why are they still investing? That's the question. Why?
Okay.
The question
So
is,
for you as a consultant, why do you think so? Why do you think that they're there?
you said what?
You as a consultant, you tell me, why do you
Yes.
think people are still investing?
Is that me as a consultant?
Yes.
You have, if I'm going to get you correctly, you're asking why should they still keep investing in Nigeria?
I'm not saying why should they. I'm saying why are they? Okay.
Investing in Nigeria.
Yes, why are they investing in Nigeria? See, you just mentioned that there's so many challenges. Okay. And see, I'm trying to help young Africans, okay, who say all these things, right? We know the challenges. The challenges are there.
Despite I'm going to tell a bit of a story.
Yeah.
They say when you get into a national park, it takes a trained eye to spot a leopard on the tree.
Okay.
So it takes a but I was reading sometime a long time ago about a book about written by a bank CEO. Said when they were trying to build the bank, there was no internet, first of all, and they wanted to do online real-time banking. So he had to build an internet company in Nigeria.
Okay.
He had to, it was a technology he had to replicate, but, he had to build that for his bank. So you see, he could have just said, oh, the internet is not working. Well, let me leave the bank. I can't start incurring this cost at this stage. But he knew that that could give him a competitive edge. So he built an internet company. So if you have estimated $5.6 trillion consumer and business spending in a market in Africa, and you take maybe a 10% chunk of that as at that early stage, are you saying that the person shouldn't venture into business? Is that business is either you fight or you flight. It's fight or flight. So it takes a lot of resilience and perseverance to really grow in this market.
Yeah.
Despite our challenge.
Yeah.
Nobody is denying that challenges here and there, but it spurs you to innovate and it spurs you to grow as well. So where these challenges are, that's why I see a lot of Nigerian so-called tech companies. Now they are moving into they are moving into Asia, they are moving into Latin America. You can't go through all these challenges here and you built at scale and not replicate such growth in those markets. So yes, I agree with everyone. There are challenges and there are challenges everywhere. Even right now in the world, there are challenges. We can see the trade policies, the trade war going on from US to China to the EU and the rest of it, giving, everybody's taking shots at each other, Just, with the tariff and all going up and here, and so up and down. So you find out that even the countries closest to America, they are even crying and saying, "Come, they are going to kill our market because of all these tariffs."
that
Because of all
story.
this
That story
time.
is a big one. Hmm.
So you know when you talk about businesses, you talk about trade, you have to keep you have to the geopolitical politics, you have to keep an eye on it,
Yeah.
because everywhere there seems to be a change of government and everybody's coming with their own ideology about what they want to achieve.
Hmm.
So the trade war itself is, I don't
And
know. Africa seems they seem not want to talk about Africa right now because
well,
it's
okay. See, when it comes to that, I think
Mhm.
we need to step back and say, okay, so where do we fit in this space? Okay, see, and I'm not saying just the government to step back and look at those things. It's business owners. Okay, business
Yes,
owners
yes,
need to step back and say,
yes.
where do we where do we fit? In fact, they should be the first people to do that, and then they can see where their businesses are being affected.
Hmm.
Okay, so that they
Hmm.
can recommend policy changes to the government. Okay, and
Hmm.
not
Yes.
allow the government to just scratch their heads and propose something. Okay, the business owners need to start it and tell the government these are the places where these changes affect us, and these are the things we need you to do for us. Okay, so because I don't see I don't like to I don't like to say things I don't know. I don't know the relationships of large businesses in Nigeria or Africa to our governments. I don't know how they relate. So I don't know, you know. But I think
You know, the government is just supposed to create an enabling environment
yes,
where business is concerned, and you find out that the more um, business owners themselves. Now, basically, if you find out that most countries are de-globalizing, so to say.
yes,
So everybody's trying to localize their supply chain.
yeah, mm-hmm.
And sometimes some things we need to question ourselves. Like, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, he's a farmer. So I asked him, why do we keep importing when we have this arable land? He told me that uh, uh, the farmers themselves are not innovating. They are not innovating because he doesn't see any reason why we should have importation of food itself in itself. Sometimes there are some things that beg for answers. The government is everybody's trying to discourage importation in their country. Virtually, that's why America is really slamming, they are going up with the trade tariff and they are trying to create, sometimes when you have this growth in businesses, you are going to create wealth, you are going to create employment for your citizens
Yeah,
or, whoever is in your country. So you ask yourself, why do we have government policies in place and we are not really, the businesses themselves are not asking themselves, looking at the long term and saying, okay, yes, the government has created these environments, though it could be a bit challenging because of all these policies. But how do we innovate within this space and say, okay, let's look inward. Why can't Africans do business with each other?
mm,
Why can't we? Why can't I go from Lagos to Benin and trade, and I have a comparative advantage over the others and say, okay, I could produce this at a affordable rate. What can
mm,
you produce at this affordable rate? Why do we keep exporting raw materials, then keep bringing finished products? Why?
yeah, mm-hmm. I mean,
Recently the cocoa cartels in Africa said, no, we can't keep exporting cocoa. Why can't they set up shop here? Why do we have to keep exporting cocoa? They bring in this finished product, and these are questions that we need to, even the business owners themselves that need to ask themselves.
Yeah,
that
yeah. See, these things. Sorry, go on.
Why do we keep exporting raw materials? Why can't we stand? Look at what Dangote is doing. Saying no, I have the refining capacity to provide the fuel consumption of what Nigerian consumers can take in a day. Then you still have some people saying, no, we want to keep importing and importing. Why? Why do we have that? Why can't we come together and form a consortium and build a refinery, set up shop like Dangote and say, okay, we are refining products as well. So we have the forces of demand and supply at play, which is price. Saying, okay, this is my pricing, this is yours. Yes, let the consumer determine where they buy their products from. So I think basically governments just need to create an enabling environment and policies, but not forgetting that there's the geopolitics at play as well. If you are planning on exporting, you should understand that where you are exporting to, they have their own policies as well. So you are bringing your products in. Why can't you, if you can really satisfy your local markets, given our population, I think sometimes it's a win-win for everyone if you can look inwards and localize your supply chain, basically stay in your markets and really make sure that you address the need of the market itself. Because see, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday. I was having with someone, and he said, in this neighborhood, there's this, so they need to go to another, well, some people call it county or borough, then to get this thing done. I said, that's a business for someone. Why can't this person just set up shop and say, okay, there's no need to go out of, let me satisfy everybody in this, and that's a business for someone. So you need the businesses themselves to answer these questions. Are we meeting these unmet demands first, given our challenges with government policy? I won't lie to you, there's no policy the government will make that there won't be any challenges, because there will be some oversight in whatever policies they are making. But even with those oversights, I believe businesses can still thrive. I believe businesses can still thrive, whether in Nigeria, whether in Africa. Businesses are thriving, and it depends on how you innovate at scale. I keep saying this innovation. When I say innovation, I think basically tech. Sometimes they will say technology, and when you say technology, some people will say digital. That digital part, I like to leave it alone, because you still need the physical infrastructures as well. What are the physical infrastructures the government are providing to make it easy? We can apply technology to agriculture, but the technology, are the technology going to build roads? Because if you don't have good roads, how do you bring your produce out of wherever you have your farm? So if we apply technology to agriculture to tell you, okay, this is the good weather for you to plant and the rest of it, but the technology cannot, the software cannot create roads. There has to be physical roads.
Now, let me challenge you on that. See, we know there's so much need to build infrastructure. Like you just mentioned, the bank building an internet infrastructure for them to be able to do online banking, right?
Yes.
What do you think? Do you encourage big businesses to diverge into other areas, like building infrastructure that supports their business? As if now creates a different company to do that. I mean, do you encourage that?
They have to. Okay, the example I gave, the bank that built you know that this same bank got a government consent to construct the road that leads to where the bank headquarters was there. So you have to create that, see, you have to create that environment for your own business to thrive as well as a big business. If I'm to build, okay, like what Dangote did, he did the EPC itself, that's the engineering, procurement, and construction. He found out that where he was, he has to do a lot of piling, has to do road networks, build road networks for himself. So he's a big business. He could afford to do that. If he doesn't do that, it won't be convenient for him to carry on his business or conduct his business in that environment. So if you have such financial depth of providing such infrastructure, and which will ease your doing business in that community, you could do it. I could build a road if I have a factory to. If I'm building a factory and I find out that there's no road that leads to the factory, and that's where I'm able to secure the expanse of land for me to build the factory on. I could build a road. It's for my ease of doing business. Yes, it's at a cost, but I'm looking at the long term, because businesses need to start, focusing on the long term than, just, focusing on the short term gains. So I think it's something businesses need to look at.
If we look at
So,
the United States, right?
mm-hmm.
In the 18th century, 19th century, even till now, big businesses build infrastructure. Okay. Now,
yes, they do.
Somehow we in Africa do not understand that one of the biggest hindrance for us is the massive landmass. See, Africa is big. See, and
yes, it is.
And it's difficult for government to do build all this infrastructure. So for me, although the government still needs to come up with creating the enabling environment, but the businesses need to go to them and tell them, we want to invest in this, so we need you to do this for us. Okay, because see, Africa is big. So the government cannot afford to create all this infrastructure. They cannot.
Infrastructures. I agree with you.
See, if we continue waiting for government to build the infrastructure, we wait for another 100 years. But if businesses are determined, because we want to build this thing, we need to create the infrastructure that drive our services and products.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
Because,
and if you have a place, a concentration of a place where you have businesses like factories, you'll find out that they tend to enjoy external economics of scale in terms of road infrastructure. And so if you go to a place where you have, a collection of concentration of industries, you find out that the road networks, the infrastructures they build from scratch. They do not wait for the government.
Yeah.
Even if the government has to step in and give consent, they still will have to take it to the government and say, okay, because of this kind of business we are trying to conduct here, can you please just give us a permit, sort of a permit for us to construct this road or this infrastructure, for us to be able to do our business with ease. So I think there's always a midpoint where businesses will have to meet.
Let's look at Elon Musk, right? Where he's SpaceX is in Texas. Okay, they built the whole place. They built a city.
Exactly. Even in China, where he has his Tesla.
Exactly.
He built.
Yeah, they built a city, including the houses and all that, to accommodate their employees.
Yes, yes, yes. You
So,
you you
so
you have those examples everywhere,
yeah,
everywhere. Whether it's in Google or with Apple, they will just tell you this is their campus, and when you go there, you find a whole entire city built,
yeah.
with all the accompanying infrastructures as well. So uh,
See,
I
so
will agree with you that
for us to be see this thing about waiting for government to do to build us all this infrastructure is one of the main things why things don't work. We
exactly,
haven't
exactly.
industrialized in a continent. Okay, yes,
No,
we
no.
need the government to give concessions, but businesses
Yes.
need to start. Well, maybe the businesses need to come together and
And
you know
even you have all those models of PPP, that's the private public sector, model where
mm,
businesses will come and the government will come, you know, just, just to conduct business, but they will build the accompanying infrastructures with it, so that at least, you have those such examples everywhere in
yeah.
Nigeria and the rest of the world. So I think those are the kind of models big businesses could explore as well.
Mm,
So, but you can't wait anything for the government.
yeah.
I beg to say that sometimes even the government sometimes don't really understand what the business needs are.
No, the government doesn't understand anything. That's the truth. The government doesn't understand anything.
Sometimes even the regulators themselves, let me share this with you. Even the regulators themselves don't know what the global standards are.
The head of the regulation agency,
Uh-huh.
have he ever built a business in that industry?
Okay, that's the other questions we need to. Those are the questions we need to ask. Those are the questions we need to ask.
You see,
Those are the questions we need to ask. But
yeah,
I believe that there should be some sort of even when you are appointing people to such level of competence, you
mm,
need them to have the skill and to be able to operate at that level, because you don't want to over-regulate a sector, because if you over-regulate it, you build some sort of bureaucracy and
yeah,
roadblocks for businesses to thrive. So I believe
and, and that's one of the biggest hindrances for business building in Africa. We are over regulated, and that's
no.
because people who work in the regulation in sector, right, have not
Mm-hmm.
built a
Yes,
business before. Okay, and see,
before.
we don't wait for the businesses to come up first so that we can see what they're
Mhm.
doing, so that we can now say, okay, based on this, we now regulate this. We first once we just see something happening, we just run and
Mhm.
plaster a regulation one, two, three, four, and then we don't allow the businesses to come up. See,
Exactly.
regulations should come after the businesses have started running, and then we see the government
Exactly.
sees something going on and say no, this should not happen. Okay,
Happen. Yes,
but
exactly. Exactly.
we
Yes.
start making laws to regulate something that haven't even started.
Started yet, and they don't understand what uh the needs, the business needs of that
Need, yeah,
environment is.
yeah.
So
So we,
so
we
if
kill
you
the
now
business,
come
we
up with
kill the
those
business
regulations
from scratch.
before the go, from the scratch. So sometimes we do barrier to entry. It could be barrier to entry for some businesses. So I think sometimes the government really need to sit down with the business people and understand what their needs are, because
Mm,
the regulation, and you find out that even in Africa itself, it's a bit of a challenge, and because of the fragmentation between countries, you find out that we African countries themselves can't do a lot of trading with each other. Found out that if I operate in a particular place, I cannot have a business person somewhere else, like the EU. If I have a company in Brussels, I could easily do a lot of business in France, Germany, and the rest of the EU countries. But in Africa, you find that the regulation in a particular country is different from this one in the one in another country. So it's a sort of fragmentation that keeps businesses small. So if I could trade from Owerri to Lome, I could trade, I could trade easily. It creates a lot of what's it called? Like, a lot of balance, because right now, if I don't know what is keeping the African Trade Continental Area Treaty. I don't know what is keeping it, but if that could be implemented, it will be having a free trade zone, something after the World Trade, that as big as the World Trade Organization treaty. So if Africans trade within Africa itself, given our population of 1. When you have 1.2 billion and they are telling you that it's going to be twice that amount in 2030. Come on, the market. That's a market, a black market. Yeah, 50. So that's a large market in itself.
Yeah,
so
it is.
We really need to address this fragmentation itself.
Okay.
Within Africa.
This is the issue. Okay. We have been talking a lot for more than 80 years, right? Yes, we have been talking about those things.
Exactly.
You see, for me, I read a lot of history. Okay. So I ask myself,
okay,
the current African countries were created by Europeans, okay? Before the Europeans came, how much were we trading with each other? Yes, there were big markets, okay, across a large area, okay, but there were not so many. For example, people from West Africa maybe had a big market in Mali, Timbuktu, all that, okay? But there were not too many. So the interaction between us were not much. There were not many big cities, right? And because, again, listen to what I said before, Africa is a big place. It's a huge place. So see, we were not doing things together for a long time. We are actually a very new integration just started yesterday, right? Now, EU, Europe have been dealing with each other for nearly 2,000 years. Yes, they've been trading, they've been fighting, they've been killing themselves. They know about each other. Most people in West Africa didn't know that people in East Africa existed, right? Yeah, we didn't know about each other. Only a few big cities that know, oh, there's a big city up there that will take me 2 months to go to, all that, okay? But the majority of us didn't know about the existence of the other. Okay. Now, to build the kind of market we want, okay, it will take time. Now, again, because of that lack of philosophical integration, I'm not saying physical, philosophical integration, how we think. See, Europe in essence have the same philosophical foundation that was based on Christianity. Okay, they worked on it for
Mm-hmm.
at least 1,000 years
Yes, yes.
before EU just started in 1960 or something, right? Or
Yes,
EU, no, 1970 something, right? After working on that
uh,
integration for almost 2,000 years.
mhm.
Now, we haven't done enough work to integrate ourselves just philosophically. We haven't done anything.
Mhm.
Because if you talk,
Mm,
see, a lot of young Africans talk about Pan-Africanism, okay? And I ask them, what is Pan-Africanism to you?
mhm. They
There
even talk
is,
about the African Renaissance.
see,
Uh,
see, see, I have not talked to two people who have the same view of Pan-Africanism.
Pan-Africanism.
They,
But
so
you know,
the philosophical foundation is not there.
yes, I understand. You know, even despite our diversity,
Yes.
you know, even okay, let's take Nigeria for instance. We have at the last count, I can't count how many tribes we have in
Two,
Nigeria.
three,
But
330,
even
about 330.
that's the one accounted for. That's accounted for. So we still have our diversity, you know.
Yes.
Yes, yes, I understand the African philosophy, the Pan-Africanism and all that, but I believe in the Ubuntu philosophy. That's
Okay.
what I believe in. You know,
Okay.
I believe
Now,
in
okay. If I
Ubuntu, you
ask
know,
you, what is that? What is that? See, where are you from in Nigeria?
I'm Yoruba. I'm from Lagos,
What state? What state?
Lagos State.
Okay. Where in Eco? Where in Eco do you have the practice of Ubuntu ever happened?
Yes, I understand. Uh, you know, I understand that we we have this. How will I put it now? The Ubuntu itself might not be, you know, might not be that philosophy from where I'm from. Because where I'm from, okay, let me tell you from where I'm from. Where I'm from, we believe in communal living.
Okay.
This is how it works.
Okay.
If you have a family comes from a community. But even within that community, you find out that there is a communal. If I say, okay, this is me, this is my name, they will tell you I'm from this compound. And when I say I'm from this compound, we have a large compound with buildings in that
Yeah.
community. That anybody that is from there, we are family members because
Yes.
we bear the same
The
surname.
same
We
thing.
are
The same thing for me. Yes.
so we make sure that as one person is growing, we help the other person to grow as well
Yeah.
because we have formed the same community.
Good.
So I might not, they might not know the Ubuntu. I'm just saying it as a general African philosophy.
Mm.
But you find out that that's what is helping the Asians. Like in the
Okay.
UK,
So
you find
okay.
out that
Now you're saying say that. So Ubuntu in itself is not
yes,
like it's been painted like that. Ubuntu is an African tradition,
yes,
but it's
yes,
actually a human tradition. Okay.
tradition. Yes, it's a human tradition.
Yes.
It's a culture that has been in existence within some communities that okay, as this
Okay.
one is growing, the other person grow as well. So it's a philosophy that has been ingrained in our culture
Okay.
as Africans.
Okay.
So, but when we use it, we use it as a general term for Africans, for
Mm.
Pan-Africanism.
Mm.
So we tend to say, okay, this is what we subscribe to.
Okay.
But we find out that in some communities in Africa itself, take the Igbos, for example. The Igbos are communal, they live communally. They live in a community, they live, they help each other grow, whether it's business, career, and the rest of it. So you find out that these things are ingrained in these cultures, even before anybody started saying something about Pan-Africanism. That's the philosophy of each culture, that each and everyone should grow. So
anyway, see, the
some
point,
people might
the
not
point
understand
is this.
It that way.
Yeah. The point is this. See, we need to integrate ourselves to make these things work.
Exactly.
Okay. Without integration, these things will not work.
Africa itself has been fragmented. They've been fragmented for a while. We find out that the way I should be able to, I'm using this word now carefully, I should be able to travel easily within the African continent. We find out that sometimes, because of the passport I have, I might not be able to do that. But you find out that someone coming from maybe the US, UK, because he has a passport, can just travel, can just pick his passport and run.
Okay, we say that, see, it's true, okay, and we say that a lot. But the point nobody, I haven't heard anybody articulate is this: why? Why do we allow somebody coming from US or Canada or UK to just fly into any country in Africa, but we don't allow the next door neighbor to fly in? Why?
It's because, see, I believe everybody sees it as a protectionist policy. Okay. A story was told about when some people were traveling to some African countries way back, that's years ago. You have to go to Paris first, then you travel to the African country. Why should we have that? Why can't I pick a passport and down in Lagos, I take a train?
So you're asking the question again. So why? What is it that is holding us from doing those things?
The thing is, I believe it comes from the leadership itself. Because if you have a policy that I can go from Lagos or from Kanu.
Why don't you have that policy?
Or somewhere in Ouagadougou freely. I think that's one thing I'm in support of this African free trade continental area.
I'm totally in support. Okay, but the point is this: the thing that has been on, at least they have been doing the ratification since 2018. Okay, but yet it's not on ground. Okay, so that's the question I'm asking. Why do we? What is holding us back? See, we need to identify these things.
I think it's the mindset. I think some people. I'm just saying. I don't know what their thoughts are, but I'm just saying as a general thing. Some people believe that probably if that thing comes into full operation, they might be left out in terms of productivity. Because you're not telling me now that somebody from Abakaliki can bring his product freely into my country and sell. But some people believe that because of the state of where we are in terms of efficiency and productivity, we might not be able to have that edge over those people. So everybody's trying to protect their market, which is not supposed to be the mindset. Because if you tell me, okay,
mindset are built based on reality. Okay, mindsets are built based on reality. So if we have this mindset, then we need to step back and say, how do we solve this mindset issue? Okay, that means we need to change the dynamics of reality.
Exactly. They need to see. The thing is, are they seeing it the way others are seeing it? Is someone else, maybe somewhere in Harare, Zimbabwe, is he seeing it the way I'm seeing it? That okay, I think this could be good enough for us as Africans, for me to say, okay, there's full movement of goods, services, full movement of people. Am I seeing it the way somebody in Harare, Zimbabwe is seeing it, or in Arusha, Tanzania is seeing it? So these are
for
the
example,
questions we need to
okay, for example,
ask ourselves. Yeah.
if there's free movement everywhere in Africa, okay, I will tell you one thing.
Mhm.
South Africa will be flooded. Nigeria will be flooded. Yes,
Exactly.
that is the reality.
Yes, I understand.
Kenya
I
will be
understand.
flooded. This Rwanda will have double the population in one month. Okay, see,
Yes.
so these are
Yes.
realities. See, un-
Yes.
unfortunately, we are not
Mhm.
bold enough to address to even acknowledge these things openly. Until we are able to acknowledge these things openly, we cannot solve the problem. We cannot begin to solve the problems.
But you see, this same challenge you just said now, just posed now, is the same challenge UK faced when they were in the EU, when they
Yes.
had to do the Brexit issue,
Yes.
because they felt that most of these Eastern European countries were coming in, crime rates were up. I remember then, crime rates were up, and there's a lot of crime, and there was some Britons felt that the Eastern Europeans were taking their jobs for a lesser pay. Remember?
Yes.
So now they're out of the Brit exit has taken effect and everything. But they are finding it difficult to still trade with Europe because now some of them are saying, come, you have to meet our regulations, then you have to meet our customs, things like
Yeah.
that. So it's creating a challenge for them as well. So
Yeah.
if I say, okay, I don't want, because of people coming in from other countries to flood Nigeria and not, I don't want to be part of it. Well, I think that could be a disservice in itself because
Well,
if I'm saying, okay, it could be a disservice.
the public the population shift, the population shift
Yes.
has consequences. Okay, see, imagine if
Yes.
a lot of people from West Africa flood into Nigeria. Okay, where would they go? They will go to maybe 3 or 4 cities. Okay, Lagos,
Yes.
right? Port Harcourt,
Yes.
Abuja, maybe Kano,
Yes.
right? Now,
Yes.
all those cities right now have huge accommodation problems. Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
what will happen? They already have those issues.
Yes. Everything. Things like that. Things like that will come with his attention because you find out that as the population is growing, they tend to move to some particular commercial
Yes.
locations
Yes.
in some particular country, things like that. You just take for instance the UK. Some people will say central London is congested. The next place they think about is Birmingham. Oh, Birmingham is too the cost of living is too high.
They won't go to Birmingham unless the jobs move to Birmingham.
And so now you find out that the central London itself, because if you go to central London, you find out that in fact sometimes when you go to central London, you'll be like, oh, this place is too, I don't think I can stay here, it's too congested, the congestion is too much, things like that. You tend to say, even some people, I'll tell you for free, some people will tell you, a friend of mine that lives in Luton will tell me, I'm not going to central London, I don't think it's too congested for me. I'm going back to my Luton. Let me go and live my quiet life in Luton and leave them in their central London. Let them be doing their thing. So that's the thing. See, you'll still have, there's no way those attendant problems won't be there. Lagos State right now is dealing with congestion in terms of traffic congestion. And they are saying, okay, let's explore other means of transportation. We have the rails going now. There's been some massive developments in that aspect. There are rails connecting Lagos to other states. There are rails. In fact, I think if this goes into operation, the Lagos Badagry rail system to connect Lagos straight to Benin. So these are attendance problems that any growing city will face.
Yes.
Whether it's by sheer population growth or whether it comes as an African policy, whether the policy comes into effect and they move into those climes. But what I'm saying is, are you saying that those other countries can't look at themselves and say, okay, yes, I can't, there's no way some countries will be like Nigeria in terms of development or growth, economic growth or anything. But okay, this is where we are. This is what we are. I think this is what we can do where we are. Kenya might not have the resources Congo, DRC Congo has. That's their metal and all that. But they have their tourism. And they are building their economy around their tourism. Can't I say, okay, yes, I'm an African country, but what I can do best is agriculture. Then whatever comes with the agro-allied industry and all that.
I would say this. I would say this. I would say this clearly. Unfortunately, we can talk about all those things intellectually, okay? But in reality, these things haven't happened for the last 60 years, okay? Right? These things haven't happened in the last 60 years. See, a lot of African countries are poor, okay?
Yes.
That's the truth. A lot of African countries are poor in terms of per capita income. Okay, I'm not saying the resources underground. Okay.
No, I understand clearly. I'm an economist too, so I know understand exactly where. So, but okay, they are saying they are poor. They are saying they are poor. But have they looked inward and say, what can we do? In terms of where we are, and in terms of what our growth should be like in let's say in decades. Let's think in decades. Let's say, okay, in 10 years, in 15 years. When I think it was I was discussing with somebody, I said, come on, look at Ethiopia. Tell me the industry that is growing in Ethiopia that's more than coffee and their airline. So you look at where you are and say, okay, let's think in decades. This is where we are. This is our per capita GDP per capita. And say, okay, how do we grow this from where we are and what we have? Let's grow it. Let's grow it from, yes, we do the best of it. Fine. We have the best airline, Ethiopian Airline, fine. Now you find out that Ethiopian Airline has some other countries, stake in some other countries' airline now. So can't you say, okay, this is where we are.
See, for me,
poverty itself. Okay, let me say some stuff. Poverty itself, look at DRC Congo. They have rare earth metals that all electronic companies need. Look at what is going on, the conflict that is going on in the country. Can't they say, sit down, okay, this is where we are. We have this rare earth metal. This is the best way we can do, best thing we can do for ourselves. We've discovered this, and we are telling ourselves in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, this is where we need to be. Not minding all the conflicts that are going on.
See, this thing is the issue. We over intellectualize things. But the reality is that human beings don't work like that. See, I will say one thing.
Yes,
one thing that will help us. One thing that will help us. See, instead of just open borders all through that anybody can move. See, we need to systematically encourage entrepreneurs, free movement.
Yes.
Okay, entrepreneurs. Definitely. That means entrepreneurs from Nigeria, from Egypt, from South Africa, from Kenya, from whatever, can move anywhere. If they can prove that I am an entrepreneur, I do this. This is what I've done in Lagos. I want to go to Zambia and do the same thing. Okay. Now, allowing those kind of people to move, they can go around creating businesses. Okay. So for me, the government needs to do this. Okay, or can do this, allowing free movement of entrepreneurs and their money to move instead of allowing everybody. Okay, if you allow everybody wahala, but if you allow entrepreneurs, now I can move from Lagos and go to anywhere that labor is cheaper and create a business. Definitely. Okay, now if entrepreneurs move, entrepreneurs move, they move with their money, they can create businesses, they can start creating little infrastructure and start making their products in places that are cheaper, and they cannot start trading these products around the continent. Okay, so in maybe 10 years, all those places where entrepreneurs move to will be richer. The people who work in those places will be richer. Okay.
Yes.
Now, it's because if you allow everybody to move, oh boy. Anyway,
you experience what you express with the EU.
No, see, it's not. See, what is the population of the EU? Okay, the population of the EU is less than half of Africa.
Half of Africa.
Yeah. Okay. And the poorest European country in Europe is ranked as one of the richest country in Africa. So allowing everybody to move in Africa, the massive migration. He go kill everything. Anyway.
But the now is, the question I ask myself is, if I create a country like Rwanda, replicate something like Rwanda in my own country, why will have you ever seen, I was asking somebody, I said, have you ever seen a community of Singaporeans anywhere else? A community. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about a community. I said, have you seen them anywhere else? Singaporeans anywhere else, a community of Singaporeans outside of their country. You hardly ever find such. Because Singapore itself is a prosperous country. So what will a Qatari want to go and, why will he go and live abroad when he's not doing business? Or more...
when it comes to the Arab countries, that's because they get everything for free, with little work. Okay.
So now they get everything for free. When you attain a particular level of education, you know that you are short of this quality of life.
Because hold on, the Arab countries, their population is very low. Okay, low population. Okay, and massive mineral resources.
Which are put into judicious use.
Yeah,
they use their resources prudently, and they use it for the welfare of their citizens. You hardly ever find such replicated in most African countries. You hardly ever find it.
Again, we can go back and say, see, many of us don't realize that Arab countries, the Middle East, has been developing, interacting with each other for
years,
over 300,
yes,
3,000 years.
yes,
Okay, so
yes,
look,
yes,
that's the same thing that I talked about Africa. Okay, we are new to the game.
yes.
We are new to the
But
game.
we can play catch up. Okay, let's play catch up.
Yes, we can do catch up, but it needs to be very systematic. Okay, okay, because now the population boom. If we allow that migration, will kill everything. So we need to do it little by little, but in a very systematic way.
In fact, even the countries you don't expect, some of them will migrate.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't want to start mentioning them because even some countries you expect to stay, they will migrate to the. You will not be asking yourself, why?
See, in West Africa, only Nigeria, Ghana. I was saying, see, in West Africa, only Nigeria, Ghana, maybe Sierra Leone, maybe. So this is where the likes of Togo, Benin, Mali, even Burkina Faso, Niger will run to. Yeah, everybody will flood the and it will damage the economies of the recipient countries, and as well as the where people are migrating from, because everything would just cease. So we need to do it in a very systematic way, But
yes, okay. Like you said, businesses should just maybe the only thing that should have free movement, apart from just individuals, just businesses, so that at least they'll be able to create wealth, generate employment, and add value to whichever recipient countries they choose to migrate.
Yeah.
So I think
I think for the first 10 years, entrepreneurs should be given free movement so that they can go anywhere in Africa and start creating businesses. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, when businesses are created and the businesses more businesses are growing, then we now start looking at the next level. What kind of people do we want to move? Maybe expats and all that. Anyway, that's my take. That's my.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you on that. I agree with you on that, so that you don't have all this congestion and all that. And sometimes if you're not too careful with it, you find out that you don't want crime rates going up. You don't want to have issues where some European countries are having people sleeping on the streets and things like that.
Exactly,
so
and that will happen.
I don't want that. So let's. I think we could, we find a way to curb those things by looking at that policy really and saying, okay, it's those that have work or are doing business that can move freely.
Yeah.
In terms of that, I think I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you on that.
All right.
With you on that.
All right. So Paul, me, I like to read. Okay.
I understand.
And I like to tell my guests to recommend books for my audience. So help me recommend 5 books to my audience.
Okay. I'm going to be a bit biased. Sorry.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be a bit biased because I'm an economist. So I'm going to be a bit. The first book I will recommend is from an economist, and is a
very good.
I think she's a baroness now in the UK. Yeah, Damisa Moyo. I'm going to recommend her book.
Okay, which one?
Dead Aid.
See,
Dead Aid.
okay. See, I have it on my bed. I have it on my bed. I just bought it about. I bought it last week.
Oh,
okay.
nice.
Yeah.
I think because of the peculiarities of our time, I think
that's why I bought the book. Yeah, and I was shocked. I was shocked to see that she has so many books. In fact, I bought Dead Aid and I bought two of her books. You know, she has so many books.
Well, this particular one comes to mind because of the peculiarities of our time and things like that.
Yeah.
Then the next person would be, of course, a Nigerian CEO a former CEO of Zenith Bank, Jim Ovia, had the book Africa Rise and Shine.
Okay.
Which is
Africa Rise and Shine. Good.
Rise and Shine. Then I'm going to recommend a very, how will I put it? Somebody that I really see as someone that I see as a thinker of his time. His name is Lin Kuan Yew.
Okay.
His book, Third World to First.
Okay, that book again. I just bought it. I bought it some weeks ago, but I haven't read it. Okay, but I have it on my table.
Oh, it's a good book. It's another good book to read.
Okay,
it's another good book to read. Then I'm going to recommend maybe for business. You can read Jim Collins' Built to Last. It's a very good book as well.
Okay, very good.
Built to Last. Then I'm going to recommend Kanichi Omar. He used to be a former consultant with McKinsey.
Okay.
He has a book called The Borderless Nation. So
what?
That's a good book as well. The Borderless Nation.
Okay, Borderless Nation. Interesting.
Borderless Nation.
I would like to read it because I have my views about borderless nations. Okay. I will tell you, it's borderless nation sounds. It looks good when you think about it, but the challenges are enormous. Okay.
Yes,
and I would not encourage it for any country. I would not encourage it for any country.
No, there'll be a form of control. There'll be a form of control. So you don't have all those.
Yes. So borderless nation is not. See, I'll read the book, okay, but I have my own view because of what I've seen happening.
Because of what I've seen happening. So
yeah,
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. Then another book that is very good to read is the Prosperity Paradox by Clayton Christensen.
Of course.
That's the one.
Yeah, I have it. I have it too. I read
because
it.
He has a Nigerian or Jomo.
No, that was not why I bought it. I bought it because someone on this podcast recommended it. Oh, I read it. I love it.
It's a very good book.
I loved it. And that's why
I believe every person in leadership should read it. I believe.
Good.
My own.
And that's where he talked about businesses building infrastructure. Okay, he talks about that a lot. Exactly. Okay, and I agree with him. And it has we have seen it work in so many places, in America, in Africa, in Nigeria. It has happened. Yeah.
The principle applies everywhere.
Yes.
Principle applies.
Yes, everywhere. It does. All right. Thank you very much.
Those are very good books to read. The Borderless Nation, Built to Last, Third World to First, The Prosperity Paradox, and Damisa Moyo's book, The Dead Age.
Yeah.
I think those books are, mind stimulating and they tend to satisfy some of your intellectual curiosity as well.
Yeah, they do. Now, I want you to advise young Africans to contribute their little bit to their communities. What would you advise them to do?
Okay, I believe in I'm not so much of a. There's a paradigm that is happening in Africa right now. There's a trend. I believe in. I believe in giving back to the society. I believe it's my own, my own philosophy. Give back to the society, help you can, contribute your best, to wherever you are from. And you find out that, okay, I found out that there's a trend in America. Once they leave a particular circle of where they are from, strata from where they are from, they keep going back to give back, to pull out more people from, from that circle.
Yeah.
To break, having that vicious cycle continue on and on. I believe, even when you are in a for-profit business, you could still contribute your own
philanthropic
contribute your own
endeavors
to that, and so you don't. Yes, you are for profit, but you are still making sure that at least people don't remain in a particular. It breaks my heart to see people live in squalor, poverty. Sometimes it could be by sheer circumstances and all that, but you need to understand that you could still dig for gold in such,
yeah
strata of the society.
yeah
So my advice to, Africans is, wherever you find yourself, make sure you are pulling people up, opening doors for people as well. Don't go through a particular bridge, then burn the bridge, or the, it's very crucial. You find out that I've had built relationships that I've kept over the years for such a long time, because I believe it might not be for my benefit. Far from that, it could be for someone else's. So if you are going up the ladder, don't kick the ladder off the wall. Pull as much people up, open as much doors for people as well. My own advice. That's my philosophy in life.
Okay, thank you for that.
Known each other, we could still continue our relationship for 20, 30 years to come. We never can tell where we find ourselves. So my own philosophy in life is keep, despite whatever coin some people have paid you with, just make sure you keep pulling people up, opening doors for people. That's my advice to anyone.
All right. All right. So my last question: what's your vision for Africa in the next 20, 30 years' time?
Wow. In next 20, 20 years. Well, there's a poetry I read, a poem I read. Sometimes I think it was in secondary school or something. It was written by an African that had never been to Africa. His name is David
Okay.
Dio.
What? Who?
His name is David Dio. He hasn't been to Africa, but he wrote a poem by Africa about Africa. I think he lived in France the entire year. So, but my vision is to see an Africa where where you see not just businesses thrive, but where people can live freely and live in abundance, not just living in scarcity in the midst of plenty. That's my vision for Africa. We've had so much, we are so blessed with so much enormous resources that, Africa or Africans don't have any business being poor.
Okay.
We are blessed. We are blessed with so much that some other continents or countries don't have half of what we have. And I believe Africa will grow. I believe in the enormous potentials Africa holds. So, but like I said, we have to keep building, and in the face, despite the whatever geopolitical chaos or anything that is going on elsewhere, if Africa can still thrive, and
All right,
it should be a
we can. We
Mhm.
can. We can. Wow. Paul Oshegon.
Okay,
It's been interesting talking with you today.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same
Thank
here.
you very much for being a good guest of the Think Big for Africa podcast. All right.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for me, sir.
Yeah. All
I'm
right.
deeply honored, and it's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, sir. All right. Okay, bye then. Take care.